This isn't going to be a meme video or anything, so if you primarily enjoy those, I apologize, and I will be doing more of those in the future, so don't worry. But I'm going to try and make this as fast as possible. Now, I was thinking about doing this video since the Vecna patch. There was a question which Behavior responded to in a worrying way, and was a question that was about fixing a symptom and not a core problem with the game. Also, this isn't an us versus them video. This is a video trying to explain why killers are playing every single match like it's a tournament as the Vecna patch. The question was this: slugging has become extremely common lately. A lot of killers create special builds to down all the survivors and then wait until they bleed out on the ground. Some perks like Knockout promote this playstyle even more. Are there any plans to add a feature which will prevent such unpleasant situations? There is one situation where I believe slugging needs to be changed, and I'm hoping that that's what this question was about. And that's when everyone is on the ground, there should be some way to accelerate the bleed out, because contrary to popular belief, you aren't being bled out on a floor for the sole reason that the killer is being an arsehole. It's the only way to guarantee that you will win the match in these situations, since it avoids 4% self-one hooks, deliverance, flip-flop power struggle, boil over, and anything else that would stop you being able to hook, which can lead to a snowball of everyone being picked up. On top of this question, I've noticed a very worrying amount of people dumbfounded, specifically since the Vecna patch, about why killers are playing significantly sweatier than they were prior to this patch, from tunneling off the rip, slugging and proxy camping most matches, alongside playing almost primarily super high tier killers like Blight, Billy and Nurse. If you genuinely do not understand why killers are doing this more, stop playing only Survivor 24/7 and actually put serious time into killer until you play against decent survivors, or at least read patch notes for killer and understand the repercussions of changes being proposed. First, I already know there's probably someone in the comments as I speak claiming about how I am just an ignorant killer main who has never played survivors, so I just don't understand. So let's throw this out the window immediately. So here we are on the live servers. We've got our favorite ghost girl, Sadako. And then if we head on over here so we can see the levels of my different killers, obviously we've got Sadako as my highest. She's prestige 36, as you would expect. Next we have Skull Merchant, she's prestige 12. Then every other killer that I have is a single digit prestige. We got 3 1s, 4 3, 4 2, 3 3, etc, etc. So we've got 2 double digit prestiges, with the highest being prestige 36 and the next being prestige 12. But let's head on over to Survivor, shall we? Because if I was just a killer main, surely I won't have any survivors that are higher levels than that, really, would I? So we're in a Survivor now. We have Rebecca Chambers, who's my main, and oh, she's prestige 100. Oh, we also have a prestige 26 Ellen Ripley. My top 2 characters are much higher level than my top 2 characters on the killer. Not only that, we have 2 prestige 9s. We didn't have a single one near 10. We have another prestige 16. We have a prestige 5 Cheryl. We also have a prestige 11 Jane Romero. So on average, we have significantly higher levels on Survivor than I do on killer. It's almost like I play more Survivor than I play killer. Also, there will no doubt be a comment like you see everywhere along the lines of, well, I can play killer and get 12 hook games with only 1 gen regression perk all the time. You must just be bad. I hate to break it to you, but that's because you're playing against bad survivors. In the background, you'll see me playing Wraith, perkless and add-onless on one of the worst killer maps in the game. For those who don't know, your killer MMR is on a per killer basis, so while I play against extremely good survivors on most of my killers who I play sweaty, I don't enjoy Wraith, so I use him when I need to do a tome challenge I can't be bothered doing during actual gameplay, and as such my MMR on him is absolutely toilet tier. I don't tunnel anybody in this game and actively avoid it to try and get a 12 hook game. I even make a lot of mistakes since I haven't played killer in a hot minute, and my volume is low so I can't hear anyone, yet I get a very comfortable 11 hook game and give hatch to the last at 3 generators, and only slug when I literally couldn't pick someone up to flashlight save and to avoid killing somebody before I had everyone second stage. This doesn't mean I'm a god gamer or you don't need gen regression to win, it just means you're playing against bad survivors where it doesn't matter what you use. Next, I'm not claiming that these playstyles are enjoyable to play against. I want to headbutt a wall anytime I play against the twins because I know 90% of my match will be laying on the floor staring at a bar. As for pre-Vecna pot pain res, I also hated it. In fact, I hated it so much I refused to run it. Go back to my VODs or even previous YouTube videos from pre-Vecna patch, and there was only one match I ran this combo, and it was a viewer build Vanity Mirror Myers match. But I can't do super fun builds anymore with just 1 slowdown, because pop was my single regression perk of choice, and it got nerfed so much I can't rely on it anymore. Killers weren't running gen regression because it was super broken, they ran it because it was a necessity to actually slow down generators enough to win a match. Take this clip. This is a clip taken after Vecna. So this is the video in question. This is just going to be me as Chucky right at the start of a match, and there's going to be a couple timers up on the screen. The reason we're doing it from the start of the match is because it's a great baseline, because obviously generators can't start being done before the start of the match. So we do it at the start of the match because then we have a solid baseline number so that when timers are on the screen, we know that they're somewhat accurate. So we get control, and then 2 timers start. The bottom left is the total time elapsed, and the top left is how long it's going to take me to find someone. The next timer hasn't started because the chase hasn't started. We just saw Sable all the way in that corner over there. Hang on, let me just mute it. What I did there is I moved back away so that I can go and highly hole and come back to try and avoid my terror radius for a little bit. So finding someone that stopped at 16.4 seconds, and the chase time has started now. Bear in mind that I don't think that we could have found anybody any quicker, even if we were running Lethal Pursuer. That's how quickly we found him. Okay, we downed her. It took 17.48 seconds to down this person, which is extremely quick for the start of the match where survivors have all their resources. In fact, it's unreasonably quick. You're usually not going to do that. It's usually going to take you about 50 seconds. We just hooked her on our pain res gen. So the gen that we're going to pressure next has had 20% regression taken off it. We're actually going to pause it so we can put the sound back on so you can hear how far along the generator is. Oh, how do I get it? You can hear? I can down that person any quicker. This is me talking. So this generator is at 80%. So I found someone in 16.4 seconds of the game starting, downs that person in 17.48 seconds from finding them, hooked them on a pain resonance hook which took 20% regression off that generator, and then immediately pressured this generator. It took me 60.3 seconds to complete all of this, and the generator is still at 80% progress. Anybody who thinks that the gen regression is overpowered and that's why everyone is running it are being incredibly ignorant. Obviously they're going to be running it when you can do 80% of a generator after 20% of its progress just got taken off in 60.3 seconds. This can be done at any point in the game. This isn't just the start of the match. And this is why killers actually feel the need to run gen regression all the time, because this isn't even the worst it can be. I've had generators completed before my TVs have even turned on as Sadako. If you need to do sub 20-second chases, followed up by a 20% gen regression event that can only trigger 4 times in a match, obviously killers can't rely on this to get through 12 hook states before all their generators are completed, meaning they need to build pressure elsewhere, usually via slugging or lowering the efficiency of gens, which would be taking someone out the game early. Not only have gen regression perks been neutered across the board for the past couple of years, but mechanics for survivors have been buffed to further encourage these playstyles. Buffs to anti-tunnel perks like Decisive Strike have substantially increased the usage rates of these perks, so now killers need to play with these perks in mind. Before some dickhead just says, just don't tunnel, dude. Most people are using anti-tunnel perks not as anti-tunnel perks, but to actively waste the killer's time. Off the record to take a hit for their teammate, then they'll purposely go down so they can DS you while you're actively trying to chase somebody else. But you can't chase the other person, because the person with 14 health states from their perks are blocking you the entire time, and you as the killer are punished because they are literally throwing themselves at you with their anti-tunnel perk. The way to counter these perks versus good plays is, you guessed it, tunneling and slugging. You immediately hit the person off the hook, which will break the endurance effect from off the record, making it so you no longer need to worry about them using it to body block. Then if you down them, you leave them slugged on the ground to burn through the Decisive Strike timer. Maybe you've not been keeping track of exactly who's been hooked and who hasn't been unhooked, which means it is now in your best interest to just slug everybody on the ground for 60 seconds every time you get a down if you've hooked a few people, because you don't know whether they're going to have Decisive Strike or not. Are you starting to see the problems that are arising from the recent changes? Also in the Vecna patch, which is the patch where people are complaining about more tunneling and slugging than ever, Behavior in their infinite wisdom decided to buff toolboxes of all items, because apparently the strongest item in the game needed a buff. So now you can sabotage without the killer being able to do anything about it, making it literally impossible to hook players with uncounterable sabotages on toolboxes that were built for gen speed, because now you can do both. But good game design, like making it so you specifically build your overpowered items to do specifically one thing in an overpowered way. Let's buff them so they can do everything in an overpowered way. They've also nerfed perks like Sloppy Butcher and Save the Best for Last in previous patches, which were only used on already weak killers, further nerfing them and discouraging you from playing them. So they nerfed killer perks that didn't need nerfing with zero understanding why they were used, buffed gen progression perks through the roof like Deja Vu, Weaving Spiders, and creating perks like the upcoming Lara Croft perks, which will also make the situation worse, while buffing both gen speed toolboxes and making uncounterable sabo speeds so the killer literally can't hook. Buffing anti-tunnel perks to the states where they are used aggressively so they literally punish the killer for not tunneling and reward the survivor for doing this, and then sit there dumbfounded as to why killers are sweating their bollocks off the whole time. All these things I mentioned were forewarned by good players the first time the Vecna patch notes hit, and then exactly what decent killers said would happen has happened. The solution is not to nerf everything into the floor, unless of course you want to play dead by P100 comp nerfs every single match, which will be the future of this game if balancing keeps going the way that it's going. But to reward killers for playing in more enjoyable ways, and to adjust perks in healthy ways, and to shift the meta to a place which is fun. Players will always find the meta of a game, that's just how it is. If the meta is not fun, that's not the player's fault, that's bad game design. For example, instead of drop kicking every single bit of gen regression into the floor, buff the gen regression so on its own it's very strong, but as it's stacked with other gen regression perks it gets diminishing returns. Encouraging killers and rewarding them for using less gen regression perks, but not outright deleting the ability to stack them, while also not hurting the survivor experience if a killer does stack multiple gen regression. Giving some kind of base kit buff to killers every time they get a fresh hook to encourage them to actually hook multiple players, like the next time they kick a gen it will give them a flat 10% total regression like a mini old pop goes a weasel, something that makes it actually worthwhile to go for fresh hooks. This won't kill off playstyles like tunneling, but will also make killers want to not tunnel to get that reward for those fresh hooks. Also, going one patch without buffing gen progression when you're mass nerfing all of the gen regression would be a nice start. The devs should be asking themselves why do killers feel the need to run these playstyles, run these perks, instead of just mass nerfing them into the floor, assuming that they're running them because they're broken. If the game wasn't designed in such a way that you were punished as killer for playing nice at every possible turn, killers wouldn't be playing in the sweatiest way possible at every single turn. The solution is not to mass nerf all of these playstyles, but to encourage other playstyles, or make it so that playing sweatier is inherently more enjoyable for the other side. Anyway, have a nice day, I'll see you in the next one, peace.